I'm surrounded by animals in the studio today. They all come from very different countries in different parts of the world. The tiger is from India, the panda's from China, and do you know where the gorilla and the rhino come from? Well, they all come from Africa. Although they come from different places, they all have something in common, and that's the fact that there aren't very many of them left. All these animals are endangered animals. Well, that means that they're in danger of dying out altogether. There used to be many thousands more in the world, but now they're all very rare and difficult to find.
Over the past decade. It is the most detailed account of the demographic changes in the country since the year 2010. US Census data release shows that the United States is an increasingly diverse country, as there have been significant increases in the number of people who identify as multiracial, Hispanic and Asian. These categories have driven much of the population growth between 2010 and 2020. The multiracial population has changed considerably since 2010. It was measured at 9 million people in 2010 and is now 33.8 million people in 2020, which is a 276% increase.
So there's a new study that's come out that states in 17 states you have a declining white population, that more white people are actually dying than being born. Let's go ahead and roll the short clip.
White Americans are dying than being born. The University of New Hampshire study found a decrease in the white population across 17 states that make up around 38% of the U.S. population, including Florida, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia. The declines are due to an aging population, fewer women of childbearing age, and lower fertility rates among whites.
Sometimes the elephants are shot by poachers. Although it's against the law, it still happens. The elephant's tusks are then sold to gift shops. The tusks are made of ivory, which can be carved to make jewellery. It really would be very sad if African elephants disappeared forever, because there was no land for them, or because too many of them were shot.
If elephants did vanish forever, the only way to learn about them would be to look at pictures. And that's not the same as seeing a real elephant, is it? Here's one animal that you can only see in pictures. It's called the dodo, and the dodo is extinct. That means it's disappeared altogether. The dodo was a bird which lived on an island called Mauritius. We don't know much about it, because all that's left are some illustrations of what it looked like. There are some bits of its skeleton, which are now in a museum. A part of its foot, and a bit of its skull and beak. The dodo was a very heavy bird, and although it had wings, the wings weren't big enough to enable it to fly. 300 years ago, when sailors visited Mauritius, they brought other animals onto the island which disturbed the dodo, and sometimes the sailors killed the birds for food. The dodos couldn't fly away, so one by one they were killed off until there were none left, and the dodo became extinct. That's why we sometimes say, as dead as a dodo. Poor old dodo. Here's a little song about it. The fate of poor old dodo was settled long ago. Dear oh dear oh dear oh dear oh dodo. Because he was so slow, dodo had to go. Dear oh dear oh dear oh dear oh dodo. And others, it is all too clear, will very quickly disappear. We must do our very best to stop each species going west. The fate of poor old dodo is something you should know. Dear oh dear oh dear oh dear oh dodo. All that's left to show is bits of beak and toe. Dear oh dear oh dear oh dear oh dodo. And others it is all too clear could very quickly disappear. Others, dodo like, will go if we choose to make it so. The fate of poor old Dodo was settled long ago. Dear old Dodo, dear old Dodo, dear old Dodo, dear old Dodo, dear old, dear old, dear old, dear old Dodo. Dear oh dear, poor old Dodo. And the sad thing is that many other wild animals are now in danger of becoming extinct. To prevent this happening, zoos try to breed rare animals to increase the numbers. It's not easy to do. Elephants, for instance, are pregnant for 2 years before they produce babies. But there are some rare animals that zoos breed very successfully, as Louise found out.
In here, we have a gorilla family group, and some of them were actually born here in the zoo. The big male there is called Samson, and he was the father or grandfather to most of the children. They all live very happily here together. And Gogol, she's one of the ladies, has a baby called Zachary that's just 6 months old.
Okay.
Right, what's his name?
This is Reuben.
Reuben. And how old is Reuben?
He was born on the 4th of July. He's 3 months old.
I see.
He's a good boy.
How often do you have to feed him?
He's fed 5 times a day now, starting at 7:30 in the morning,
Yeah.
and last feed at night, or any time after 10 o'clock.
And how old is Reuben?
He was born on the 4th of July. He's 3 months old.
I see.
He's a good boy.
How often do you have to feed him?
He's fed 5 times a day now, starting at 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And
Over the last 10 years, West Indians have been flocking into Britain. Today, there are some 350,000 of them living here, nearly half of them in London. Why do they come to this country? To find jobs and better opportunities, and because, as British subjects, they look on Britain as their second home. Their own homelands, 10 beautiful islands in the sun, which for 300 years have been part of the British Commonwealth and Empire, cannot provide work for them all in a rapidly increasing population. These West Indians were among the last to arrive at Southampton before immigration was controlled. At Waterloo Station, many were met by relatives and friends, but some had no one to greet them. Others had only addresses in Manchester, Birmingham or Leeds. To get them on their way, reception committees worked throughout the night. As most of the West Indies live by agriculture, the majority who've come to Britain are unskilled for industry, so jobs present a major problem. London Transport has a highly successful scheme which recruits bus conductors from Barbados, one of the West Indian islands. Candidates are chosen on the island, and some 200 of them come to Britain every year to join London's bus conductor force of more than 14,000 men and women. A day's outing, and it's raining. Britain's climate is something else that West Indians have to get used to. This party is off to Clacton-on-Sea. 8,000 West Indians served in the British forces during the war, and about 1,000 a year came to Britain just after the war. It was during the early 50s that immigration started in earnest, when 20,000 a year were arriving here, practically all men. But over the next 5 years, more and more women and children arrived to create a family pattern. They're essentially a simple, fun-loving people, and this sort of outing makes them forget their worries. For a few hours, they they can escape the bewilderment of trying to adjust themselves to living in a world of different customs and different outlooks. Old prejudices die hard, and misunderstandings can become even more confusing. Though, if you're very young, your problems tend to be different.
At Curry's, we receive 4.
Time! Move! 9! Erst musst du mich erschießen!
Whatever you say, Jack. You're the master race. Let's go.